Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala ashabi ajma'in. Wa ba'd, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, seek His aid and His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of our souls and the evils of our actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, there is none to misguide, and whomsoever Allah misguides, there is none to guide. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah alone, without any partners, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger. This is the explanation of Surah Al-Faatiha by Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, rahimahullah. It's a brief commentary. And it is compiled by our brothers at SalafiPublications.com. May Allah reward them abundantly. Stated the Shaykh of Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab. First, all praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Second, the most merciful, ever merciful to his servants, Master of the Day of Judgment. These three verses contain three matters, meaning the first three verses from Surah Al-Faatiha. In the first verse is the love of Allah, who is the bestower of bounties and favors, and the bestower is loved to the extent of his bestowal of favors. Love itself is of four types. A. Love entailing shirk, and they are those about whom Allah said, and of mankind are some who take for worship others besides Allah as rivals to Allah. They love them as they love Allah, up until He said, and they will never get out of the fire. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayahs 165 through to 167. B. Loving falsehood and its people, and hating truth and its people, and this is a characteristic of the hypocrites. C. Natural love, and this is the love of wealth and offspring, and when it does not divert one from obedience to Allah and nor assist in falling into the prohibitions of Allah, then it is permissible. D. Loving the people of Tawheed and hating the people of Shirk, and this is the strongest of the handholds of Iman and the greatest of that which Allah is worshipped by. In the second verse there is hope, raja, and in the third verse there is fear, khawf. You alone do we worship, meaning, I worship you, O Lord, with what has preceded of these three, that is, with love of you, hope in you, and fear of you. Hence, these three are pillars, arkan of worship, and directing them to other than Allah is shirk. Also, in these three verses is a refutation of the one who adhered to only one of the three, such as the one who worships with love only, or hope only, or fear only. And whoever directed a single one of them to other than Allah, then he has committed shirk. And among the benefits that the verses contain is that they refute all the groups who are attached to only one of these three qualities, such as the one who worshipped Allah the Exalted out of love alone, likewise the one who worshipped Allah the Exalted out of hope alone, and similarly the one who worshipped Allah the Exalted out of fear alone, like the Khawarij. Verse, you alone do we worship, and in you alone do we seek aid. This contains the Tawheed of Uluhiyyah, which is Allah being singled out with all forms of worship, those of the heart and the tongue and the limbs. Also, it comprises Tawheed Ar-Rububiyyah, which is Allah being singled out with creatorship, khalq, ownership, mulk, and regulation, tadbir, of the whole creation. Ayah 5. Guide us to the straight path. This contains a refutation of the innovators. Ayah 6. The way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace. Ayah 7. Not the way of those who earned your anger, such as the Jews, nor of those who went astray, such as the Christians. And as for the last two verses, then they contain the following benefits. A mention of the states or conditions of the people. B. Allah divided them into three groups. First, those who are favored. Second, those upon whom is anger. Third, those who are astray. C. Those upon whom is anger are the ones who have knowledge but no action. D. Those who are astray are those given to worship but without knowledge. E. Even though these verses were revealed in connection with the Jews and the Christians, they are applicable to everyone who is described with what has preceded. F. And as for the third group, they are those who are described with both knowledge and action, and they are the ones who are favored. And the surah also contained the following benefits. A. Negating power and might from oneself, since he is the one favored upon, hence he is not the owner of power and might. B. Perfect knowledge of Allah. C. Negation of deficiencies from him, the blessed. D. The servant's knowledge of his Lord and of his own self, since if there is a Rabb, a Lord, then there is a marbub, a slave, by necessity. And when there is one who shows mercy, Rahim, then there is one who is shown mercy, Marhum, by necessity. And when there is an owner, Malik, then there is one who is owned, Mamluk, by necessity. And when there is a servant, an Abd, then there is one that is worshipped, Ma'bud, by necessity. And when there is a guide, a had, then there is one who is guided, a Mahdi, by necessity. And when there is one who bestows favors, a Mun'im, then there is one who is favored. And when there is one upon his anger, Maghdub, then there is one who becomes angry. Hence, this surah contains both Uluhiyya and Rububiyyah, the negation of all shortcomings from Allah, the Mighty and Majestic. And it also contains the knowledge of worship, ibadah, and its pillars, and Allah knows best. These were the end of the Shaykh's words. So here are some supplementary notes. First, since Al-Faatiha is recited in every prayer, and is also the essence of the Quran or Quran, then what it contains of benefits can be utilized to develop, maintain, and reinforce Iman. Second, the surah contains the following matters, which should be enumerated and memorized. A. A mention of the pillars of worship, love, fear, and hope, the actions of the heart. B. A mention of the names and attributes, Allah, Rabb, Rahman, Rahim, Malik, which are the basis of all the other names and attributes. References Ibn al-Qayyim in Al-Madarrij. C. A mention of both Uluhiyya and Rububiyyah. D. A mention of what is for Allah and what is for the servant. E. A mention of what refutes the innovators within Islam, and thus emphasis upon the Sunnah and the way of the Salaf. F. A mention of the pillars of guidance, ilm and amal, knowledge and action. G. A mention of the various states of people with respect to knowledge and action. Third, Ibn al-Qayyim said in his book As-Salat wa Hukam Tariqiyya, and when he says, all praise is due to Allah, the Rabb of all the worlds, he pauses for a short while, waiting for the response of his Lord, my servant has praised me. Then, when he says, the most gracious, the most merciful, he waits for the response, my servant has extolled me. And when he says, Master of the Day of Judgment, he waits for the response, my servant has glorified me. It is the delight of his heart, the pleasure of his eye, and the joy of his soul that his Lord says about him, my servant, 3 times. By Allah, if the fumes of desire and the darkness of the soul were not upon the hearts, they would have flown out of happiness and joy that their Lord, Maker, and Deity says, my servant has praised me, my servant has extolled me, and my servant has glorified me. Then there would have been space in his heart to witness the reality of the 3 names, which are the basis of all the beautiful names, and these are Allah, Ar-Rabb, and Ar-Rahman. When he says, Master of the Day of Judgment, he witnesses the glory which befits none but the King, the Truth, the Manifest. So he witnesses a very powerful and compelling King, to whom the whole creation has yielded, to whom the faces are humbled, to whom the creation humbles itself, and to whom every possessor of power and honor submits. He witnesses with his heart a King who is upon the throne of heaven. And then he says, you alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help, in which lies the secret of the creation, and the affair of the world and the hereafter, and which contains the loftiest of goals and the most excellent of means of approach to Allah. The loftiest of goals is enslavement to Allah, and the most excellent of means is his help and assistance. There is no deity deserving of worship in truth except he, and there is no helper in his worship besides him. Therefore, his worship is the greatest of goals, and his aid is the loftiest of means. And these words contain the two types of Tawheed, and they are Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Devotion to Allah is comprised in His names, Ar-Rabb and Allah. So He is worshipped on account of His Uluhiyyah, help is sought from Him on account of His Rububiyyah, and He guides to the straight path on account of His mercy. The first part of the surah therefore mentions His names Allah, Ar-Rabb and Ar-Rahman for the purpose of the one who seeks His worship, help and guidance. He is alone in being able to bestow all of that. There is no one who can aid others in Allah's worship besides Allah, and none can guide to the straight path except Him. Then the caller realizes with the speech of Allah, guide us to the straight path, his extreme need for this guidance. He is never in need of any other thing as much as he is for this guidance. He is in need of it every moment and at every glance of the eye. Then Allah makes it clear that the people of this